Now, we're back from lunch, and we're on to the executive panel. And you've been listening to incredible thought leaders this morning. What do you think of our thought leaders this morning? Yes. Yes. Dr. Chica, Dr. Christy, Caroline, amazing, amazing speakers. But you know, like they're best-selling authors and published and do keynotes on this big stage all the time. And often what we hear from our guests is that, as great as that is, this next part is really cool for you because it's like you're eavesdropping in on a conversation between three executives. So I'm going to lob a question to them, and then they're going to engage in some conversation amongst themselves, and then I'll lob another question in, and again, they'll engage in some conversation themselves. So look forward to eavesdropping in on this conversation between, if you will, from Osler, Lauren Tomasich, the partner of disputes. Yeah, let's hear it for her. Michelle Calloway from Minto, the Senior Vice President of Property Operations. Yeah, there's her friends. And then from BD, we have Robyn Saccon, who is the Vice President of Public Affairs. Oh, there's her friends. I love it. It's a long walk, isn't it? Quite the hike. Welcome, welcome. So glad you could join us. Thanks so much for taking the time and being with us and being present here. It was an honor to really connect with you each backstage as well. Those are all on and live, so you're good to go. And my very first question, Lauren, maybe if I could start with you, is how'd you get here? Like, what's your journey? What's your story?
Thank you. Happy to be the one that gets to answer the first question. My name is Lauren Tomasich. I'm a partner at Osler. I'm in the disputes group. I have a fairly broad commercial litigation practice, which means I help companies on a wide variety of business disputes, typically when something has gone awry, but also to manage risk as well. So my two particular specialties are domestic and international arbitration and investigations and regulatory enforcement. And in terms of my journey, I've actually been at Osler my entire career. I started as a summer student in 2006, and I've now been a partner coming on 10 years.
Wow, amazing, thank you. Michelle, what about your story?
I have a bit of an untraditional background, actually. I am from California. I also am sorry, so thank you. I've been in Canada for 10 years, in Alberta and most recently Toronto for the last 5. I grew up, I'd say, on my own a bit. So at 16, I got my first apartment, and I kind of had a bit of sharp bubbles up early on in the industry, and I'd say thanks to a lot of mentors along the way, it's kind of led me to where I am today. And I try to lead with that same model to my team that I have now.
Wow. I mean, yes, acknowledge that. Now, my head goes in a couple of places when you say you're on your own at 16. Out of choice, or were you sent to like a private school and you were like this ridiculously wealthy family?
No, that would be awesome, but no, unfortunately not. Missed opportunity. No, I actually didn't have a lot of family. My family passed away quite young, and I was emancipated. And I guess that was my first introduction into the apartment background, and I had a lot of experience with that.
So property management makes a lot of sense.
It's fitting,
for you
right?
Awesome.
Yeah,
well,
definitely.
Thank you for the courage to share that with us. I really appreciate it. Robyn, what about you?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm super excited to be on stage with these individuals and to be in this room. So, Robyn Saccon, I'm the Vice President of Public Affairs at BD Canada, and I actually started out my career in clinical ethics. So having really difficult conversations with end-of-life care decisions. And now I'm in government relations and policy and strategy. I don't know how I got from point A to point B, but I'll tell you it was a very cool journey with a lot of people who saw in me what I did not see.
Wow, are there any transferable skills from the one to the next?
I think so. I will be honest. Actually, when I ended up in policy and government relations and doing that work, I was actually identified because I built clinical frameworks and because they wanted to build funding models and policies off of clinical decisions and how they would actually be impacted on the ground.
So that's really intriguing to me because so often we get into our lane and we think that's where we have to stay. And clearly some of the lanes were very unique lanes. And so, wow, I'm excited to hear this conversation. Lauren, I'm going to come to you again. What's the best piece of feedback you've ever received, and how did it change your approach?
So I'm going to talk about the journey to partnership because I think, I mentioned that at the outset, and It's typically a time that is fraught with some consternation about what can I do? Am I doing the right things? What do I do to make this happen for myself? And it involves a lot of conversations to get that type of advice. And people will tell you, speak, write, do good work. And this one particular fairly senior partner that's known for having a bit of a tough approach said to me, Lauren, if you want to be a partner, act like a partner. And I said, that's actually pretty good advice. I can take that. I can act like an owner. I can act like a mentor. I can act like this business is mine. And I can do everything that I would do in that capacity. And how has that changed my approach? I now try to look at anything I'm trying to achieve as though I'm already there. So if I'm going into court, I've already won the case. And I think about the mindset that you need to be in to have won that case. Or if I want some work for a piece of work from a client, I try to think about the fact that I already have that work and I'm talking to the client as though we're already partners trying to achieve their objective. And I think it has sort of really helped with my outlook and approach and confidence. And recently, actually, I was having a conversation with this partner to thank him for some advice he had given me on a file where we'd won and been successful. And he said to me, remember when you really wanted to be a partner and I told you to just act like it? I think you're doing that. So 10 years later, apparently, it worked.
I love it. Let's recognize that partnership, amplify it. And what I love is I'm really hearing that you basically manifest it in your mind before you even begin to take the steps to achieve it. That's incredible. Now, Robyn, this question was interesting to you as well. What was that best piece of feedback you've ever received, and how did it change your approach?
So there's actually, some people call it a poem, some people call it a story. It's called The Hole in the Sidewalk. I don't know if anyone knows it in the room, but I'll make it succinct. Everyone walks down the street, there's a giant hole in the sidewalk, everyone falls into it. But people keep walking down the street. Do you need to walk down the street? Should you keep walking down the street? Or can you find that other street to walk down and still get to the same outcome and the same result? And I think that was the best piece that I got, was I didn't need to walk down the street. I didn't need to fall in the hole. I didn't need to build something on top of the hole. I could find my own pathway and a different street to walk around to get to a different result. And that would be equally as rewarded as going down the same path.
Well, now it makes sense. Starting off in palliative care and now where you are with BD, I get it. You chose your own sidewalk?
I would think so. And I think I'm very blessed that BD lets me continue to pick that different walkway and supports me through it too.
That's powerful. That's powerful. Michelle, I want to come to you now, please. How do you balance high performance with the growing needs of wellness, flexibility, and work-life harmony, especially in high-pressure moments like your job?
Yeah, this is a fitting one, and it resonated earlier with the speakers that we heard on a few different occasions. I'd say about 2 years ago, I made the intentional effort to really invest in myself personally to get a better work-life balance. I did MBSR training, I did therapy, I did coaching, I began working out regularly, and the goal was really to emphasize to my team and show them the importance to me from the top, right? And this is not traditional in the workplace. We talk about it, we advocate for it, we have it marked on our new hiring paperwork as a benefit plan, but are we given the opportunity and the time, and where do we place the value for that, right? So I, try to lead by example by doing all of those things and making the time. The topic came up earlier about calendarization, and it's funny, but one of the perks at Minto is I have a coach, right? And my coach last week she challenged me, and it came up today, so I challenge everybody else too. She just started talking about my calendar time and also setting boundaries, right? Saying no. When do you have time for yourself? How do you allocate time equally to everybody at the company? And just making sure that you kind of hold that strong and stay true to yourself.
Wow. So you've taught people how to treat you then based on honoring that self-care?
Yeah, I'd say it goes both ways. I learned from my team as well. And, I try to also teach them those same tools.
Wow, amazing. And so what comes up that pulls you off that schedule? Does anything, or are you really solid on it?
This is why I was talking to my coach about it last week. I mean, who doesn't get pulled away naturally, right? This is life, and a lot of us have family in here. I'm a mom as well, and I use these same ideas at home, right? And really, I'd say the biggest thing that I've learned from really jigging my schedule around is the emphasis that I put on what I value most. And I value both equally, my work and my family life, right? Like, I take pride in what I do. I'm happy. It took a lot to get where I am in my career today, but I'm most proud to be a mom. And sometimes it's hard to lose sight when you're doing the couple hours after work here and there, or you're at a ceremony and you're doing some work on the side. But what's most important is that you're present in that moment.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that that's possible for us.
It's hard to believe.
Yeah, sometimes. Lauren, I'm coming to you next. Mentorship and sponsorship. They can play a significant role in career growth. What role have they played in your journey, and how do you build those relationships?
I think I'm very lucky to work at a place where mentorship is truly ingrained in the culture. I think it's something that people don't even think about. People do it naturally. People do it to people that are only a few years below them, or people that are even retired from the organization still act as mentors. And so for me, it's not about seeking out that one person that I'm going to go to for everything and I'm going to think of as the person that looks out for me, but going to different people depending on the situation and really cultivating a network where I feel comfortable asking for help. And that's what mentorship means to me, is to be able to go to somebody else when you're in a vulnerable situation, tell them about it, and know that they are going to be right there and they are going to do what they can to assist. And there's been a lot of discourse recently about the difference between mentorship and sponsorship, and how these people are often not the same, because a mentor can help you in these vulnerable situations, but you're actually expecting the sponsor to be the one that's out there talking about how great you are. So should they be the same person? And I was reflecting on this, and I actually really think that they can be in many instances, because if you're going to someone to talk about a difficult problem that you're having, working through the way that you're going to manage it, the person is going to see that you're doing exciting things, you're being thoughtful about the way you're managing them and approaching them, and they are going to recognize that, and they are going to be the one that is thinking of your name when an opportunity comes up. And so I think it's just about building relationships and really having the trust in people, and we've heard a little bit about that this morning, to be able to go to people when you need help and trust that they will see that as not a weakness but a strength, and will sponsor you in the right opportunity. And certainly the reason I have the opportunity to speak to you today is I was sponsored by women at my firm to do this opportunity. So thank you.
Wow. So now, is this an organized mentorship program at Osler, or this is how does this work? Like, will you be my mentor? Like, what goes on?
Yeah, and I think I'm sort of trying to convey that it's the opposite. I mean, there's all sorts of formal structures, and I think when we recruit for students, we tell them that they're going to have 7 different mentors at various parts of the organization. But really, I think the true mentorship comes in organically, just because it's something that people do and want to do and take a lot of pride in doing and really enjoy. And I've benefited tremendously from that.
Oh, amazing, amazing. Yeah, please.
I'm just going to combine 2 questions that you gave us,
Sure.
if you don't mind.
Go for it.
He told me I could improv and make it a conversation. For those of you at BD are not surprised that I've done this. But picking up on the relationship, one of the questions that he gave us was around networking. And to me, it's not about networking. It's about relationship building. And it's about building relationships in a purposeful way. Because I think when people think about networking, they think of like, I give you my card, or virtual card now when we tap. You give it back to me. We reach out when it's necessary and, you know, when there's a job or something. But it's not about that. And it doesn't need to be about that. So the organic, the constant relationships, and really looking at how you build those purposeful relationships and partnerships are actually what we need to look at. So it's not necessarily calling it networking anymore, but it's really about the relationship building side of things. And you can do that internally and externally. And sometimes those relationships lead you to the most exciting places.
Wow. I'm tapping into your courage, because I love it. And I'm tapping into what you said. You saw Brene Brown's picture outside. She's been on the stage before. You know, so often we talk about vulnerability with women, but it's actually courage. Brene said vulnerability and courage are one and the same, right? And courage and vulnerability are one and the same. So I want to just applaud your courage today. Yes, let's hear it for them on the courage side of it. And then that question, you're leading this panel, I love it, is that what role has networking played in your advancement, and how can leaders build and leverage strong networks? Michelle, are you comfortable to keep that conversation going?
Yeah, I was going to jump in.
Do it. Just go, you guys.
Right? Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And it touches on what you mentioned, so it was right to kind of carry that through. It doesn't matter how many people in here we're connected to on LinkedIn, right? I probably wouldn't know 90% of my network connections that come in daily. The ones that I've found over my career that are most valuable is exactly what you were explaining, were the ones that we make time to get to know. Not on a surface level, and you show up consistently, right? There's a problem at one of my properties, I'm gonna be there, right? Somebody is in a crisis mode, you know who to call to ask, but that goes both ways, and I know that we have built strong network connections at Minto as an organization. I have over my career. I have no doubt that if I picked up the phone to call those people, they were gonna be here for me, and just like you mentioned, think of us in an opportunity. And kind of pave that path for us in the future. And it goes both ways, right?
Just to jump in, I totally agreed when you started talking about your thoughts on networking. It's exactly what I had been reflecting on as well. And I think the sentiment is quite similar to mentors and sponsors. I think we've all been there when there's a networking event and you feel you have to go, and maybe you go and hand out a few cards and your heart's not really in it. And how many actual relationships did you build from doing that? How many people called you from receiving a card? Probably not many. But if you can translate the networking opportunities into things that you enjoy, ways to connect with people and have great discussions, such as this event. I mean, over lunch, it was such an awesome opportunity to talk about what we heard this morning. I think you really do build lasting friendships and authentic lasting friendships, and those people come through just as your mentors and sponsors do. They think of you for opportunities, and they're there as friends in a professional environment that can sometimes be tough.
I'm going to just mention one more thing. I was at an event, it was about a month or two ago in Chicago by Desjardins. They hosted a dinner. And I was the only female in the room for a period of time. I'd say about 40 men, which is not unusual, probably for a lot of you, right? But there was a moment in time where a woman walked in, and she was younger, and she, from across the event, saw me and beelined it over. It was like, woo, right, we're cheering. It's like the network of women has arrived. But anyways, what I would say to that is I've reflected a lot on that. We've connected on LinkedIn, and we stay in touch. Really, it's not about work, just having that connection, but it's those moments where you actually take the opportunity to get to know somebody, like we did backstage for a few minutes, and then it's a lasting connection that you have, but it's really kind of up to you individually to keep that communication going and be there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to add something to it, but, and this is, I think, something that I've learned even along the way, is around those organic moments. And I'll tell you, we were in this building in October. It was the largest medical technology conference, AvaMed, came to Canada for the first time. It was absolutely electric in this room, just like it is today. And I was on an escalator, and I was holding a piece of equipment from our lab side of our business. And I had this student come up to me and said, do you need help? You're sweating on the escalator. I was like, oh, it's heavier than I thought. CrossFit did me nothing. And I started talking with her and found out that she was the president of the Students' Union for MedTech. And in that moment then, we extended just a relationship around, can I talk to you about what to do? Or I don't understand how to actually get into MedTech. We hear all these things or we see these things online, but I've never actually talked to anyone about what it is. And our general manager, Ivy Parks, amazing women leaders I have with me today, but Ivy is one of them. And her and I went, and we actually sat down with over 1,000 MedTech students and exposed them to what MedTech is, because people don't understand it necessarily. But from that one conversation on an escalator here, that's what happened. And I think those moments are really important, and then how you kind of keep those going.
Brilliant. And so networking then isn't just handing that business card and asking for a job anymore? And more often than not, what I'm hearing, it's really about making connections for people so that even if you have to run across the room because you're the only two in the room, you can actually make those connections. That's brilliant. Michelle, I'm going to come to you next. So how do you foster inclusive and diverse environments in your teams? How do you intentionally create space for women to advance within your organization when there are only 2 of you at a dinner of 42 people?
Yeah, this is a hard one. I thought about it a lot last night. And what I kept coming back to is oftentimes I would be in a room, oftentimes with all males, and I'd ask myself, who's not in the room? To myself, I'm thinking, like, why are they not here? I'd say in my industry, not only to like our careers, but the buildings we manage, the homes that we build with Minto. And sometimes if you've never lived in an apartment, for example, or a condo, and you cannot envision what that's like, that's another way to look at it. And I kept tying these two together, thinking, that comes up a lot, like who's not in the room when we're designing a building? Who's not in the room when we're talking about benefits or women's rights or anything on the topic, maternity leave coverage, right? So these are all very near and dear, obviously, to everybody in the room, but I kept going back to that, and I think that's the most important part is I've been a huge advocate to really behind closed doors advocate for the younger women, not younger in a sense of age, but in the industry that I'm working with to say, okay, that person is a high performer, that person, they're going to take my job one day, I'm rooting for them, right? And really just painting that picture and then try to clear the path and prepare them.
So do you look at a model then of that first? So if you're talking about these buildings, are you looking at who you want to be the residents of these buildings? And even though they're not in that meeting room, how do we design it for them?
This one is my favorite, actually. The employee one is very easy because I think we're all trying to advocate for each other. The homes and the apartments is the most fun, and I have a lot of fun colleagues that are with me. We were just doing this yesterday. I don't know where Mon is, but yeah, there she is in the red. It's her favorite color. Mon and I we challenge each other in this industry, right? So some of us, for example, we're thinking about every detail. For those of you that live in a home, this is the most fun story. Somebody I worked with not too long ago, it was an all-male room. They were designing a building, and they deleted bathtubs from hundreds of suites because they said nobody takes a bath anymore. And I thought, as a mother, but also a woman who likes to take a bath, but a mom who's had to bathe a child in a hotel maybe where I didn't have a bath, it's quite difficult, but I couldn't imagine living without that, right? But in an all-male boardroom to delete, and this wasn't at my current company, this is a long story, so no, this is not Minto, they're amazing. But anyways, this is real. So in the city of Toronto, there's a few buildings floating around that don't have bathtubs for more than one company, right? And that's an oversight. So that's just one example of many where we really kind of hone in and try to consider everybody's uniqueness and what's important to them.
When I renovated a couple of years ago, I put me a big old soaker tub in there. So I'm with you on that. I've got some great showers, but I built a big old soaker tub. So I believe you. Robyn, coming to you next. What trends or shifts should women leaders be prepared for in the years ahead?
So AI and digital obviously is on the horizon, but it's not about AI and digital as a tool. It's about how you ask the right question, really, is what it comes down to. And even more than that, it's the power of the idea. And I think that's really where I would say the trends are going. So it's great when you know how to use it, but how can you actually give it an idea? The mechanism is really where I think is a trend that we need to kind of watch. And it's the power of the why, but it's the power of questioning and having the courage to question it differently.
Do you believe women are more curious than men?
I do. I had no hesitation answering that, eh?
Yeah. Very succinctly, thank you.
Yes.
But it is fascinating because I would think that women are more curious than men. I think men are more assumptive than women, and I think women are more curious than men.
And actually, linking back to one of the sessions, we even heard about kind of the generation gaps that are in the workforce right now, and I'm going to kind of pick up on your question around curiosity, is I think where women also have an ability to, on the trend side of things, is we can build bridges, we can connect dots, we have these abilities to do these. I think it was called the invisible string. My team knows I call it like, it's the tentacles of what you do. And I think that's also where we can really, with our curiosity and using the right tools and using the trends that are there, start to knit between generations and really get the most power out of stuff. So I think that's a really cool trend that we can have internally in our workplace too, is use our powers to actually build a stronger workforce and use our curiosity the same way.
Curiosity is a superhuman power. I love it. I love it. Lauren, I'm going to come to you with this one. What's one leadership myth, or a few, that you'd like to see women let go of?
I think the most significant leadership myth that faces women is that leaders need to be tough, and leaders need to be strong, and leaders need to be assertive. But the corollary to that is if you're a woman and you try to lead with those traits, you're viewed as too aggressive, not likable, not relatable, not emotional, not empathetic. And I think this causes women to really struggle with what their leadership style should be. Should they be aggressive because otherwise people aren't going to take them seriously, particularly the men? Or should they try to tap more into their empathetic, emotional side to show that they have the emotional intelligence that we talked about this morning as being so critical? And so the myth I'd like to see dispelled is that it has to be one or the other. I think you can really do both. I think women leaders can be tough and strong, but still be empathetic and vulnerable at the same time. I have had the pleasure of observing many at my firm, and it's something I really try to work on too, how I can be tough but still vulnerable. Courage and vulnerability, as you said.
I love it. Well, Brene Brown said that, not me. Not, I just spoke those, yeah. Robyn, what about for you? What's one leadership myth you'd like to see women let go of?
I think it's the 100% rule. And I think it's that when we go and we look at jobs, we kind of go down this checklist in our brain. Do I have all 10 of those qualifications? Do I have all 20 of those qualifications? Oh, God, I've only got 9 of them. I'm not going to apply. I'm not going to do that. So I feel like that's a myth that we need to recognize in ourselves, that we don't necessarily need all 10, but we need to push ourselves beyond those self-imposed barriers that we put up. So I would say that is something that I would like to see break, that we have to be perfect, we have to be the 100%, or else we don't apply.
Wow. There's tons of data in and around that being the truth. And so, yeah, I see that, and absolutely, I'm here to champion. Yeah, bring it on, bring it on. Michelle, for you, what do you believe makes a leader truly inspiring? And what qualities or skills are essential to lead with confidence today?
Yeah, I think that I look back over time at the leaders that I had that were most impactful to me, and they led with their own personal values, as well as empathy, curiosity, willingness to change, be nimble. And that, kind of mimics what you were both explaining on a few different topics as a female coming up as a leader myself and living by my values, but also kind of having to prove yourself a bit, right? You can appear to be having elbows up, like I mentioned earlier, right? Which is difficult to overcome. But you continue to show up with those values consistently, and also allow your team to make decisions and be an owner, and allow them to kind of see that through and build that trust, right? And really, we spoke about it earlier again, but that trust component, it's like without that, there's nothing. And that goes back to my own personal values, right? So that's really important to me.
Wow, I sense that I would really experience your values. This isn't something I'm going to read on your LinkedIn profile. This is something I'm going to experience when I meet you. And I have, and I'm seeing them now. Lauren, I'm going to come to you again here now. How has your definition of success evolved? And what does it look like for you today?
So I think this actually really draws upon some of the things that Michelle has said, as I think success early on, particularly as women, is to be leaders in our profession. For me, in particular, as someone that advocates and goes to court, I want to be the first chair. I want to be the one that's making the submissions. I don't want to be sitting next to the guy and helping him make the submissions and get all the glory for our win. I think success is having trust from the clients, having the clients come to you as their trusted advisor to answer difficult questions. And it's being sought after and called upon to deal with these issues. And that's what success looked to me when I started, and that is still what I continue to work for and strive for in some ways. But I've realized it's actually even more rewarding to see other people be successful and realize that that is because of you, and that is because of the opportunities that you gave them. One particular example comes to mind, and it involved a proceeding where, and granted it was a guy's idea, the senior lawyers decided that the junior lawyers would make the submissions for a particular issue before an arbitrator. And so my colleague went and did an absolutely fantastic job. And the junior lawyers that were working with the two other males that represented different parties, they did a good job, but the males kept on popping up and felt like they had to interject and have things to say. And to be honest, I didn't not do that because I'm a woman. It just didn't even occur to me that that would be something that you would do. You have put confidence in your junior, and you need to show them that they have your confidence and they can do it. And so the proceeding went well, and then a few months later I was at a cocktail event, and the arbitrator came up to me, specifically makes a beeline for me from across the room and said, "I just wanted to tell you how excellent your junior was. I was so impressed." And that felt better to me than winning a case where I had made the submissions.
Yeah, applause for that. Hello, you're getting... What was the actual feeling, though? Can you share what you were feeling at that moment in time when the arbitrator approaches you so, directly about that and says, how great your junior did?
Yeah, honestly, I got total shivers. I'm getting them now. I felt so happy, and it was a totally different feeling than winning a case or winning a file. I felt like because not only had we given that opportunity to that junior, but because clearly they'd benefited from the work we had done together and really done a great job, so much so that someone felt the need to approach me to tell me that. So that's a great feeling.
Amazing.
I also got the chills for you. That was a pretty cool story.
And Michelle, I'm going to bring that question to you as well. How has your definition of success evolved? And what does it look like for you today?
I used to think that I had to hustle continuously. And that's changed, and earlier I spoke about 2 years ago kind of resetting myself a bit, and I view it completely different now. It's sometimes about just being quiet in the background, letting folks lead, work together as a team, and not hustling. Enjoy life a bit more too, right? Slow down, it's okay, the job's still going to get done, and it's really kind of pivotal moment once you can realize that and then exercise it.
Wow. So congratulations on your success, both of you. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, recognize, amplify. I can't believe how fast our time has gone by. And so I'm going to bring you to my last question that I have for you, but you all have a conversation. I enjoy just sitting back watching you. And Robyn, if I could start with you this time, please. Sure. What's one piece of advice you'd give your younger self or the next generation of women leaders?
I'm going to go to my younger self. I spent a lot of time when I was young. We're going to hear from a high-performing athlete later on, not even close to that level, but at a provincial level where I had to train, I had to commit, I had to time management, I had to learn a lot about myself and what my limits were. And I always wondered why. Why did I do this at times? I would have why am I training 20 hours a week? Why am I at this level? And I think now what it has is it's trained me to recognize my limits as a leader too. When do I need to stop? When do I need to slow down? But also, what am I capable of when I'm at kind of full tilt? And I think I would tell myself that those are important lessons to learn early, and then you learn a lot about yourself. But what also I learned is the power of team when you do need that moment to stop. And you do need that moment to kind of slow down, how they're there to support you. So I would tell them that is so important, and keep going.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I can hardly wait to see what you achieve next, because there's still a lot more I can tell it's coming. Michelle, what about you? What advice would you give? My goodness, you started at 16 on your own. I don't know. Do you have any advice for your 16-year-old self, or what about the next generation of women?
Yeah, 16-year-old self, oh man, that's a different person. But for the younger generation, I think that just stick with your gut, right? Like, you're going to be challenged a lot in your career by everybody. And I think that if you're true to yourself and your values, once you determine what those are for yourself, and those will change too, and change is okay, it always comes back to how are you feeling in that moment, and sticking to your gut and staying true to yourself, not just letting everybody else kind of make that decision for you. And again, I mentioned it earlier, but lots of boardrooms with tough decisions and influences. But if you can just keep those values, then you're usually going to be okay.
So can I just tap on that just a little bit? Because I'm curious and I'm inquisitive. We are so at the mercy of influencers. And we see, especially to our young women, how they follow, like, I'll just say what I was going to say, inappropriate images, because they're not even real images. Those are doctored images that they're trying to follow. So how do you stay true to you when you see all that other noise out there? Is there that 16-year-old girl, I want to hear from her. What would she say to me?
I have a 17-year-old girl. So
oh my gosh.
We have this combo at home, actually, and my 12-year-old son. And as part of our company initiatives, my team, just like everybody else, we were talking about AI earlier. We have AI initiatives, and my kids are anti-AI, so being a mom who has an initiative and coming home and trying to lean in, right? It's a battle at the dinner table every night. But the question about that is really, I look at my daughter, and she shows me a lot of imagery that comes up. Obviously, our FYPs, our feed is different. And even Pinterest, which is sad, is now mostly AI, where we go to be creative, right? And my teen daughter would get inspiration for a painting or a piece of art, and now everything is auto-generated. So it's interesting. What would I say to the younger generation? I'm really having them tell me, right? They're educating me, which is a bit of role reversal there, but it's just, stay creative, and I tell my daughter this all the time, but like, that is not real, right? And I think to me, I feel like in the last 2 years, it's been a bit pivotal in this age for her of understanding how that can impact them. The schools have done a pretty decent job recently. I do have to give a bit of a kudos. They've done some education on this topic, which has been linked to bullying and a few other things, and student council, and I've been on that for the 2 of my kids' schools. We lean into that as well. So just trying to continuously give back to the community and educate on those topics, and my own children as well.
Beautiful. Lead by example again. Lauren, what about for you? What advice would you give your younger self that got right out of school into Osler, and or the younger generation that's here today?
I would say don't take things personally. And I was just reminded of this because it's one of the 4 agreements that you may have heard of, and I reflected on it, and I realized it's one of the hardest things, but we absolutely do it. We take things personally. I think as women, we take things more personally. I'm pretty sure if there's a tricky interaction at work, the guy isn't, going home at night and thinking, oh my gosh, what did I do? He's probably like, wow, she was having a bad day. And I think we do the opposite. I think if there's some kind of confrontation, a client doesn't like my advice, I'm thinking, what? I'm not a good lawyer. What did I do wrong? How could I have communicated that differently? When maybe someone was just taking a bad day out on me. We spoke earlier this morning about not knowing what is going on with people. And so if someone doesn't approach a situation in the way that might have been ideal, give them some grace. Don't take it personally. Think about where they might be coming from. It not only helps you maintain your confidence that you really need in these difficult situations, but I think it might help relate to them, approach them, interact with them in a way that's actually more productive and, hopefully diffuses the situation. So it's really, really hard. We're always I think, going to take things a bit personally, but to the extent you can try not to, I think it really helps from both a confidence and relationship perspective, both professionally and personally as well.
Toronto, I don't know about you, but Robyn, Michelle, Lauren, thank you so much for your generosity, your courage, your vulnerability. Recognize our executive panel. Thank you. Thank you so much.